Proving Patrick Henry is a Christian, well, that's no easy task, but it can be done. Okay? On the back of the Henry Stamp Act, Patrick Henry wrote the following, okay, and quoting from "Give me liberty or give me death" speech is not going to cut it when you're trying to prove that Patrick Henry was a Christian. I know David Barton thinks that's the way it works. It doesn't. And so we're going to do it from a different direction. This was written on the back of the Henry Stamp Act. This is a little document that Patrick Henry had written, and on the back of it he wrote this. The within resolutions passed the House of Burgess in May 1765. They formed the first opposition to the Stamp Act and the scheme of taxing America by the British Parliament. All the colonies, either through fear or want of opportunity to form an opposition or from influence of some kind or other, had remained silent. I had been for the first time elected a burgess a few days before, was young, inexperienced, and unacquainted with the forms of the House and the members that composed it. Finding the men of weight averse to opposition and the commencement of the tax at hand, and that no person was likely to step forth, I determined to venture, and alone, unadvised and unassisted, on a blank leaf of an old law book, wrote the within. Upon offering them to the House, violent debates ensued. Many threats were uttered, and much abuse cast on me by the party for submission. After a long and warm contest, the resolutions passed by a very small majority, perhaps of 1 or 2 only. The alarm spread throughout America with astonishing quickness, and the ministerial party was overwhelmed. The great point of resistance to British taxation was universally established in the colonies. This brought on the war which finally separated the two countries and gave independence to ours. Whether this will prove a blessing or a curse will depend upon the use of our people make of the blessing which a gracious God hath bestowed upon us. If they are wise, they will be great and happy. If they are of a contrary character, they will be miserable. Righteousness alone can exalt them as a nation. And this is a quote from Proverbs 14:34. Readers, whoever thou art, remember this, and in thy sphere practice virtue thyself and encourage it in others. The mere fact that Patrick Henry mentioned God in himself says he was not an atheist. Atheists do not include God in any of their documents. They hate God. Why would they conclude that? So, obviously, Patrick Henry was not an atheist. But what proves him to be a Christian at this point? Well, the proof is in the quotation of Proverbs 14:34. Now, I've heard this argument. Well, Satan quoted Scripture too. Satan mocked Scripture. Okay? He was not using Scripture to defend a Christian viewpoint. He was mocking the Scripture. He said, is it not written this? Is it not written that? That's true. Satan did quote Scripture, but he was doing it as a mockery to Jesus rather than to defend a good Christian point. Patrick Henry was using this Scripture to defend a good Christian point. And because of that, and because that is something that Jesus had done, it is something the apostles did, read up on St. Paul, read up on Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. You will find that when they were doing their prophesizing, or whatever you want to call it, they were using Scriptures to defend their Christian position. Patrick Henry did the same thing. So, in this part of the video I wanted to say, was Patrick Henry a Christian? Well, I think this proves it, but we're going to give more proof in my next video. Now, I will say this. Patrick Henry endorsed a proposal for tax-supported religion for Virginia in 1784. Okay, what that meant was that people were going to be paying a tax. Okay, he introduced a bill in the Virginia legislature that would have caused Virginia citizens to pay a tax, and that tax revenue would have gone to the church of their choice. Literally, the government was going to support the churches of Virginia. Now, this got struck down, but Patrick Henry not only introduced this bill, but highly supported this bill. What atheist or deist does that? None. I can't think of a single atheist or a single deist who would support a bill that would cause people to have to pay taxes, and that revenue would then be supporting churches in their community. It just doesn't happen that way. But I'm going to offer one more proof that Patrick Henry was a Christian, so stay tuned.